Mooning for some jazz.
Let Nothemba Madumo serve you up some jazz and beyond.
On 702 and CapeTalk.
Welcome to Jazz and Beyond on 702 and CapeTalk, and of course Prime Media. With me, Nothemba. You come here for the jazz, you stay for a good time. And as always, we have the most interesting guests. And today, we have one of the most significant voices in the contemporary South African jazz movement. He's a trumpeter, he's a composer, he's a researcher, educator, cultural motivator. This is an artist, I must say, who listens deeply to the voices of the past, while at the same time imagining new possibilities for the future. And he does it through his trumpet, his compositions, and of course, his scholarship. I'm talking about Ndabo Zulu. Welcome to Jazz and Beyond.
Thank you, Ndabo. Thank you for the invitation.
You are welcome. You know, I'm talking about your scholarship and your compositions and your the past, the present, the future, and all these things. I mean, just regarding your scholarship element, you know, there are some musicians who separate, you know, the performance and the scholarship. Where do you sit there?
I think that is caused by many reasons, and one of them being, of course, the work environment that kind of pushes, I don't want to use the term force, but kind of pushes a lot of musicians to separate those worlds. Luckily, I work in an institution that really harnesses my performing side and really wants to see me performing and wants me to explore and share that knowledge as new knowledge to the department in the form of outputs, in the form of research outputs. So I lecture at UNISA and they are just behind my career. Like, they want me to perform. They want to see me perform. They want to see me in platforms like this. The dean, which is Miss Nkosi, and the head of department, Dr. Jali, and Dr. Nkosi, who's the dean, want to see me perform. And Dr. Musako, who's the head of department, wants to see me perform, because that's how I bring new knowledge into the department. A very interesting way to see this happening, because it's not a lot of musicians who usually have their departments behind them and allow them to perform and allow them to go explore and come back with new knowledge to contribute into the university.
That's very interesting, though, because it makes one wonder whether or not should you be in an institution that you know, teaches and researches music, as to the importance of not only knowing the history, you know, the theory, and but also knowing the life experiences of performance and what's required in imparting this knowledge. So do you find that the administrators just work with the administrating and coordinating things, and then is it important for those who then impart the knowledge to have as either as musicians who have performed, or if you don't perform,
by administrators, who do you mean?
Just running the maybe the department or something like that, and just coordinating
in academia.
Yeah, in academia. Yes.
So do you
feel that it's important for anyone who works there to have had musical performance experience?
To be honest with you, with the administrators who sit in the front desk and direct students, it would be nice to have someone who has a clue in of course, the arts, right?
Yeah.
But within the university itself, so I'm talking about now the academic staff that teaches,
yeah,
that's one of our challenges right now, because when you go to the US, most of the people who are considered professors are people that you also see at North Sea Jazz, people that you see at all the festivals around, and they have tour schedules that the university or the institution recognizes and respects, right? And contrary to then here at home, I don't know where the gap. Maybe it's a study actually. I don't know where the gap is, where most of the people that you see dominating the scene are nowhere to be found in academia, right? And I usually have chats with some of my colleagues, and they would ask me, "Oh, so who do you work with?" And when I mention names or who works at a particular institution, when I mention names, no one knows them, right? So I don't know where this gap happened, where most of the practitioners of the music never ended up being in academia, as opposed to all the other countries where my lecturer, for an example, in Stavanger, is a celebrated pianist, right? Or the head of study for master's study in Oslo is also a well-recognized saxophonist, right? For an example. So I don't know where that gap is. Maybe it is a study, and I don't know if it's maybe laziness from me, because I've seen the gap and I've seen the differences between the two worlds. It is a study, definitely, to really check out. But we've seen also the benefits of having someone who has stage knowledge or who is a practitioner. We've seen the benefits from all of the young ones that are coming up. In the US, you find a person who plays like crazy, and you find out they're 19. But that's because the person who's been teaching them is a person who understands and has some sort of knowledge on performance itself. So yeah.
So you think this gap is very important to understand and also to bridge, for the future. Because and also maybe thinking the impact it actually has had because of this gap, where you learn all these things, and then you're thrown into the world. Go and see how to survive.
The thing is, just Nothemba, what I think is, it is very hard to dream of something that you do not know, have never heard, have never experienced, or had someone experience it and come to you and tell you it was amazing here and here and here, and you imagine it and you like, I want to experience that. So it's very hard to then dream that I could tour the world. I can imagine Dr. Makatini's students are so lucky to have someone who's touring the world, who comes back and said, I performed at this place and this was the experience. As a student, I yearn to also experience that myself.
Sure.
So if my lecturer has never experienced any of that, then they have no past experiences to share with me, so that I could yearn to also reach for that, right?
I get it.
So, and the only thing they could share is scholarly work, where it's just like history, theory, and you also dream to be like that person. But if you have someone who's already touring the world and is playing with all the greats,
and you're witnessing
exactly, you really want to be that person who has a tour guide as crazy as Dr. Makatini is, right? So, and I think it's very important that institutions should find people who are within academia but also are practitioners, so that we could see the industry growing. We have a problem of agents in South Africa, where, like, I just played a gig and a split gig with Kokoroko, and one of the founding members of the band came to me and said, why haven't you taught the world? And she said, do you have an agent? I said, no. There's hardly anyone in South Africa who's got a booking agent who will book like a tour for them to go abroad. And these are some of the things that, because for us to attract agents, we have to have people who are hungry. We have to have a number of people who are hungry and are searching ways of now exporting this talent. And if you don't have dreamers like that, then agents are not also attracted to come to the country to export this particular talent.
There's a career move right there for somebody.
I think mine is in the stage.
We're talking about you at this stage, and especially with dealing with the academic part and performance part of you at this now at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm just imagining a young Ndabo Zulu in Chesterville,
Yeah.
in KZN, and when that young man or young boy at the time growing, when you think about Chesterville, well, if that young boy were to think of Ndabo today, who he has become, would he have imagined it, or he would not have believed it, or would have like, yeah, no, that's where I knew I'd be at some point.
I'd be lying to you if I said to you I knew that I'd be here. I mean, I wanted like to have an impact, of course, in society, but I'd be lying to you if I. And funny, my story comes from a lot of questionable decisions for me to end up here. And every time I tell the story, it becomes like, but how? They're very questionable. And the things that I had to say no to without any plan, but to find myself here, only God knows what happened there, you know?
Do tell.
I'll start before realizing that I'm going to be a musician. So from high school, I had decided I want to be in aviation.
Okay.
Yeah, I was really good in math and science. So I was part of the at that time it was called Maths Academy, but it was like a group of people that represented a province in maths and science, and I was a part of that. And I decided that I'm going to be in aviation. But when I started playing music and people told me how gifted they think I am, I started taking it serious. So after I graduated, I had an opportunity to go to the US for an exchange program for something called Drum Corps. So this exchange program happened during summer holidays in the US. And usually, because I come from a marching band background, usually when that opportunity arises, no one says no, because we all are waiting for that opportunity. So I said no because I said I wanted to go to university. I wanted to go study this jazz I still don't understand. I just graduated high school, right? So I said no to that. And a couple of months down the line, an opportunity to go to Norway for a year arose after I had said no to the US. So the people who was a replacement for me had already gone to the US, so missed out on this 1 year opportunity. So I took that while I was still in university. I think at that time I was doing my third year at UKZN, and that was supposed to last for a year, right? I went to Norway for that year exchange where South Africans go to Norway, teach South African music, Norwegians come down, vice versa. When I was there at an institution called Folkehøyskole, which basically is a year after high school where they treat you like you would be treated in university. So you see that if you take this line, you're going to be interested. So I used that whole year to practice for an audition. I didn't know that in Norway, they audition you to be accepted at a university or a conservatoire, right? So I used that whole year to practice, and I went to Stavanger and to Oslo. Oslo is so competitive that everyone in the country wants to be accepted in Oslo. It's a prestigious conservatoire. And they take one trumpet, one vocalist, one tenor saxophone player. So they basically make a band of a class, right? And you show up, there's 50 trumpeters who are auditioning for the same spot, right? And I got accepted at 2 of these universities that I applied to, right? And you don't have to think about it when you're from Norway. If you got accepted in Stavanger and Oslo, you take Oslo. Everyone wants to go in Oslo. Here's the second scenario. I said no to Oslo, and I went to Stavanger.
And you went to nowhere.
Which is crazy, right? And I went to Stavanger, and people were like, are you crazy? I only went to Stavanger because I knew some people in Stavanger, and I was young at that time. I needed someone who was going to show me around. Little did I know that the university I went to actually will pay attention to me and really harness what they saw as talent in me, as opposed to Oslo. In Oslo, everyone is great. No one cares about you. You have to practice. No one is going to tell you have to practice. If you don't practice, you fail. You know what I mean? In Stavanger, my lecturer would call me and say, I can't see you in class. Where are you? You know, it's that type of like harnessing.
Very personal attention.
Yes. And I didn't know that, right? But I just went with my gut. I said no to Oslo and I went to Stavanger. Only to find out later on for my master's, I'm going to be accepted in Oslo. And master's is even more competitive because there's people from everywhere in the world who are trying to get into this master's program.
Gee.
And I auditioned for that. I got accepted. So they say denial is, what do they say? Delay is not denial. I guess for me it was that case.
Who are your people, your underground people who are just always guiding? They are just perfect in guiding you.
Right.
Because like you say, you make these decisions without knowing at the time and ones that are not expected for you to take because everyone thinks you'll take the most obvious.
Exactly.
But somebody says,
exactly.
Here's your roots.
Sis Nothemba, when I made those decisions,
Ne?
I was like so anxious and at the same time so nervous because I was just like, if I take Oslo, it's a great institution. I know no one in Oslo. If anything goes wrong, I know no one in Oslo. But if I go to Stavanger, I know someone and I know what I want. And little did I know that that's actually the university that's going to make me who I am today.
Listen, and that also, I think, gave you the opportunity to now explore the South African indigenous music.
Exactly.
And be able then to merge it with what else was going on in it. Tell us about how even that idea thought, okay, for me to be my real and authentic self, I need to go inward as to who am I as Ndabo, that I'm able to share who I am and what I'm about and what my world is about to the rest of the world.
I'd be lying to you, Sis Nothemba, if I say that was my idea. Actually, the sound led me that direction.
Okay.
Because for my master's thesis, my first proposed topic was I have a sextet in Norway, and every time I visit South Africa, I think you know that I had my sextet, and I had an interview with you, I think, years ago,
Yes.
where I was performing with Zoe Modiga, Spelelo, Linda Skakane,
Yes.
Keenan, and Benji. It was the same setup, but I sounded different when I played with Norwegians, and the band sounded different. Music sounded different and moved a different way, as opposed to when I played with South African musicians. And I was the one conducting all the rehearsals. I wrote the music. I was giving everyone direction, but the music took its own path, right?
Yeah.
So that was my dissertation. I wanted to understand
Why?
what sparked that type of direction with both these ensembles. So I thought, naturally, I'll start at home and look at the background, look at the environments in the townships where I grew up, the music we used to listen to, and all of that. And I realized as I was doing that research that you hear about all of these great musicians and all of these great instruments that were built pre-colonialism, and you hear until you get to Mom, Princess Makoko, and everything kind of gets blurry after that. And for me, that bothered me. I wanted to understand why. There's a lot of factors, and for me, I could say a temporary conclusion was when the missionaries then came down, introduced this type of music, which is Western and Western conventional music. When you understood that music in the society or in the hierarchical structure, you were seen slightly higher up, because you could understand the music of the Westerners. So it meant that a lot of people left all of these other instruments and wanted to understand this music, which then diluted our music, and
which
stops.
then fed to the ego.
Exactly.
I am now a prestigious musician because I know
I understand Mozart. I understand all of this. I understand tonic solfa, for an example. And we get to a point where 145 becomes, this is a progression, becomes South African jazz. They say that's South African jazz, but that's not South African jazz, because 145 is a classical progression that you can find everywhere. You can find in choral music, you can find in classical music. That's not really our progression. So, and I decided, I want to make this a qualitative study as opposed to a quantitative study. So I said, we have these themes, we sing a lot, and in these themes are important messages, and they carry some sort of history. How can I then blend these themes with contemporary jazz to put it in this stage that even modern people can consume? And that's really, so I had to change my study to this now. And that's really how this sound was born.
So this, now, did Queen Nandi find you, or did you find Queen Nandi?
Queen Nandi found me because it became my master's dissertation. So that's how it changed. So the reason why Baba Mbuso Khoza played a huge role in the record, that's exactly what I was trying to express, or that was my thesis. That's really where I was going, and it was the beginning phase, or the start of what I saw as a broader study, which I'm still hoping I'm going to finish in my PhD.
I'll come back to just that last sentence, but I did you even imagine that this Queen Nandi symphony would even garner you so many awards? And this was just something you were studying. You became Newcomer of the Year, Best Jazz Album, Best Duo Group of the Year, Samro's Indigenous African Music Award recognition, the Norway, what is it called? Jazz Askite? Is it Askite recognition?
Yeah.
The multiple, you also had Mzansi Jazz Award nominations. That in itself, I think, says a lot about maybe musicians always wanting to ask a musical question in their music.
To be honest with you, that I would add on what you're saying and say, I think purpose-driven art pushes itself. And I am a living testimony of that, because even how that record was released, it was the most craziest thing. Bob McCartney called me and said, you have to release this album now. You've had this album for a very long time, and if you don't release it now, I know you have to release it. And I think I probably mentioned it maybe a week before I dropped the album, and I just dropped it just like that. I had no funding to market it, none whatsoever. And even submitting for the summers, I submitted on the last day. And I didn't even know that I needed to have physical copies. So, funny story. To the people that I had sold the albums to, I had to go to them and say, please, can I borrow your copy? I'll bring it back to you. So I was driving around that last day, and I submitted it without any marketing, without anything. And I think the purpose behind the music and the intention behind the music pushed the music. And I'm forever grateful to that album, because that album is the reason why I am where I am in the industry right now.
Yeah. You've got now the Umgidi project. There's Umgidi, there's the music, but there's a project aligned to it, or what? Tell me about Umgidi.
Okay. So Umgidi, the ensemble, as Ubab Khoza would put it, as in Zulu, Umgidi is the person who performs let's call it a ritual now instead of calling it dance. I feel like it diminishes the act. Umgidi is the person who performs the ritual, so which is dancing a certain type of dance. And Umgido is the actual dance. Right? Or the actual ritual. So, so, and in Xhosa it's different, because Umgidi is the occasion.
It's the occasion,
right?
Yes, in Xhosa.
And in Zulu, Umgidi is the person who's doing the thing, the practitioner. Umgidi lo. And Umgidi are the practitioners. So the ensemble are the practitioners or the people who are performing the ritual. So the name comes like that because the people that are in the ensemble are the people that are performing the ritual or the practitioners of the ritual. So that's how the name comes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I don't know whether or not. But first, I think let's just coming back to Queen Nandi, the symphony, because this is what you're going to be performing at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz.
The first album and the new album
and the new album as well.
Yes.
And are you? Do you be? I mean, would it be all encompassing whole symphony with all strings and don't and
I wish we had that kind of funding so that we can come with the whole orchestra. Because really, even from the first album, I knew that the continuation of this, the idea behind it. Let me maybe share the idea. The idea behind it was, firstly, if an orchestra. Classic FM, let's take Classic FM. This is in your terrain, so you would know. Classic FM is one of the biggest listened to broadcasts, right?
Sure.
And Classic FM plays symphonies which last for sometimes an hour, and it has one of the biggest audiences, right? And it's music based in the cultures of the West, right? And my question was, why do we have to diminish works that speaks about our heritage? Why not? And that's the reason why you find songs that are 18 minutes on my album, where I didn't really want to conform to the 3-minute standard where they tell you that listeners get tired. Why do our listeners get tired and the listeners who listen to the music from the West don't get tired?
Yes.
I think it's because we've never created an appetite for people to listen to those albums. And one of the biggest songs in the album is 18 minutes, surprisingly. So our people really have the patience to listen to that music. So now my idea was then in an orchestra, you find people who are called soloists. So people who are virtuosos in that music, they come and stand in front of the orchestra and play. And my idea was, why not create an orchestra that will also invite, for an example, Baba Mal, and he becomes a soloist in an ensemble that we decide should have these instruments because it allows this person to express themselves fully. You know, why the next time we have Salif Keita coming through, the next time we have a quarter player coming through, instead of having violinists and cellists and whatever instrument, we have people that are going to speak African stories, who are going to share African histories through music. Why can't we have something like that? Because an orchestra has seasons, and each season has a program, and that program tells you who's going to come. There's going to be a pianist who's going to come play Shostakovich's piano concerto number. Why can't we have our own concerto that speaks about our own stories and histories?
Yeah. Which I think it's such a brilliant concept to also, because it's also about those African stories being archived.
Exactly.
Do you and I think it becomes important. Tell me if you agree. We are not talking right now about there's a library opening there. You know, there are books there. There's a history library of our stories, because these are shutting down and closing down and are limited, and not very many people are being marketed as these authors of telling our stories. Do you think the music in the stories in our music becomes very important in archiving our stories and our history?
I think it's super important, Sis Nothemba, and accessibility. Let me add on top of that.
Yes.
Because I don't want to mention institutions, but why do we have an institution that keeps so much information and history of, like, the sonic history of African stories in one place and no one knows about it and it's not accessible? Right now, if you were to go onto the internet and write Mozart, you'll find Mozart's music. I can tell you for sure.
Yeah.
But if you were to go online and look for an artist that's Princess Makoko who plays an indigenous, you can't. You have to go to a particular institution to get a hold of that. Why do we have those red tapes where it's not easily accessible? So it's really important we document them, but an accessibility for our people, for people to know that there is an institution like that and it's accessible to everyone.
And why is that institute? You have to physically go there to access
at least
that information.
At least that's how I understand it. I stand to be corrected, because I don't think I can go online and be able to download those sounds for me to really experience it, right? We have this, and I'm sure, Sister Nothemba, I just don't want to mention institutions, but I know that you have to go to that institution for you to access those.
But let's mention it. You know what? For no, it's not in a negative way.
Yeah.
But it's just for information,
exactly,
and knowledge, and maybe they are also not aware that they are hindering the expansion of knowledge and because of this red tape or administrative blockage for the public to and those interested to access this. What are you keeping it there for?
Exactly my point. Why do we have an institution? Like, for an example, I'll make an example with one institution, the Island Institution. The one in Grahamstown.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much information, sonic information about African music in general.
Yeah.
Why is there an institution like that doesn't share with the broader public that you can access this should you really want to access
or even with other institutions
exactly.
that deal with that kind of
exactly. I really, for me, I just think the music is for the people.
Yeah.
Whoever can hear the music, it is for them. Whoever can feel the vibration, it is for them. I really don't believe in sonic museums. I don't believe in that. Where you have to travel to France to see a Mona Lisa. Where you can share this audio and this audio can be heard everywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. A Mona Lisa you can't replicate and say that's exactly the same Mona Lisa. But if you share the audio, it's the same audio that you would listen to in Joburg as you would in Grahamstown, as you would in Cape Town. So I strongly do not believe in sonic museum, really.
So which also the advantage is that especially in today with the kind of technology and evolution of it, the sharing platforms which can be secure if you're worried about people turning your what you have using AI into something else or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure there are secure spaces where but anyway, I think that's just another conversation for another.
It is
for another time. There is. I asked you earlier on about your underground movement who are just whispering to you all the time. But do you find even with your trumpet playing that you are guided somehow by unknown forces and spirits and members of your family or angels or whatever words one that even when you are being explorative in your compositions, that it something pulls you in a certain direction which you can explain.
Yeah, I mean, I usually say that the Ndabo Zulu you meet outside of the stage and the Ndabo Zulu you see on stage are two different people. I strongly believe that every time I'm on stage, whatever happens on stage is borrowed powers, borrowed prowessity, borrowed ideas, borrowed creativity to fulfill the job that's supposed to be done on the bandstand on that particular day. Immediately when I move out of there, it's just me once again. So I think I'd be taking too much credit if I say everything that happens on the bandstand is my doing.
Okay.
And sometimes I can't remember what happened on the bandstand, and I only see on videos and I'm not saying that I transcend and I go elsewhere. I'm present there, but sometimes I shock myself. Like the instrument I play is an instrument that needs so much of your physique, and you need to do a few things for it to sound a particular way. Because I use my ear, sometimes I would look at photos like Spiam Tlambi takes amazing photos. I would look at photos where I am rolled up and it should practically not be possible for me to be able to play the instrument in that position. And it captures these weird positions where I'm just like, but how is that possible that I'm bending so low? And it's borrowed prowessity to fulfill that particular goal on the bandstand. So there is definitely external power that I get borrowed every time I jump onto the bandstand.
Wow, it's amazing. What musical question are you still asking? Because you have now ventured into different different routes musically. Kunabo, I don't know.
Of course.
How to describe that? Well, there's an R&B element. There's there's a I don't know. Is this it also sometimes there's music you can't really describe using the current and common, phrases because it doesn't fit there. There's a little bit of that and a little bit of that and a little bit of that.
Exactly.
A little bit of that.
Yeah.
So where are you going now? Where are you?
I see myself first and foremost as a composer before I see myself as a practitioner. So I primarily see myself as a composer, and that's the reason why I really don't have boundaries around me. But the biggest question now, which kind of cracks my skull in half, because I wanted to continue with my study, as I mentioned earlier, which was Umgidi and the continuation of that. But I was speaking to Dr. Makatin the other time. I said, if we really say music heals in one way or the other, right, or music has an impact in human lives, right? I asked him, do we have a practice in South Africa that he knows about, or in the world that he knows about, where, because they call it music therapy, where you are guaranteed. Like if you say to me right now, you have a headache, and I say, take this paracetamol, you'll be fine, and you are really fine. Do we have an institution where people really research sound to that extent that a certain vibration could heal this person to a certain degree? Do we have a study like that even, where you study vibration, that this vibration, if you are feeling this way, it has elements that could create a discourse that this person is healed? Now that is, if we really say, it shouldn't be a hypothetical thing. I think sometimes as artists or as creatives, which is a term I try to avoid, but nevertheless, we get caught up in this fantasy and ethereal thing where no one can really point at the results. It's just like, I'm a healer, I'm a musician, but I really want to know, if Sis Nothemba comes to me and says my tummy has a problem, I really want to know, if I do this using the sonics, Sis Nothemba is going to leave my practice healed. So that is my question right now. And if I could find an institution that really researches that, I think that would be my direction. And
what would it require, though? Would it require the study of sound and its impact on the body in its physical, in its physical form, and also the brain and how the brain is connected to how the sound is brought on and how the body reacts to
exactly.
it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it's a, I don't know where.
Because it's not time, I don't know if you've experienced this. You would go to a festival and they have maybe a huge sound, and there's so much low end, that can create some sort of nausea in your body.
Sure.
So then sound can really do something to a human's body.
No, it does. It's also like when you're going to an event and the sound is so terrible.
Yes.
You do leave with a headache.
Exactly.
Because either maybe the drums were so loud, I couldn't hear what the person was singing or playing, it definitely has an impact. I mean, we're talking in one of my interviews with Abdullah, when he was talking about knowing to play the piano
Yes.
and how it helps with reducing Alzheimer's. And even though he also said, in fact, that any instrument, because it affects the connection between the brain and your body, and you haven't, isn't it?
Precisely. So, and that's my idea. So if it can affect your body negatively, and that's the thing about it, I think music already has a huge positive contributing factor to a human's body, but we are just not aware of it because no one speaks about it.
Yeah.
But you can tell when you go to a performance and you feel horrible after the performance that it was because of this experience I just had. So now imagine if then the music can have that negative impact to you. I strongly believe that it has a positive side of it, which we can prove. And that is really my idea.
And it's taking me to somewhere else. We'll just go just for 1 second.
No problem.
And it takes me to also the kind of music you expose your body and your mind to. Sometimes music can be used to manipulate.
Of course.
Your thinking.
Of course.
Your body.
Of course.
Your health.
Of course.
So, yeah, we'll leave it there.
Of course. Yeah.
But we were initially trying to go in, talk about where you're going with your music
my
now.
next project. Yes, yes. So, I've been trying to, well, you would know, Sis Nothemba, that we haven't had a lot of artists who were considered jazz artists and then branched out to something else and really owned it. We saw that with Babu Moses Mulalego, who was a phenomenal jazz pianist, but at the same time could produce for TKZ,
Absolutely.
right? And he could write like bangers like nobody could, right?
Yeah.
But only a few know that he did that, right? And I wanted, because I'm in academia as well and I'm teaching the young ones, I wanted to own it so that my students wouldn't suffer from that stigma that if I do something else outside of this, then I'd be considered this, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's like Black Coffee.
Yes.
You know, I interviewed him once
Yes.
on a jazz show.
Yes.
And people were shocked. Why is Black Coffee on a jazz show? Not knowing that that's what he studied.
Exactly.
Even though he's doing something
Exactly.
completely different now.
Exactly. So, and I think with that type of unspoken stigma, we have lost on so many music as South Africans. Jazz musicians are so creative. And if everyone knew that it's okay to play jazz and also play something else, I think we would have had crazy music. Crazy
So this is
music.
where you're going.
Yes. So I'm bringing both these worlds. I'm so grateful to God that I had enough creativity to create 2 albums which live in 2 different worlds. Radio Boundary is like an alternative R&B-ish jazz-inspired album.
Yeah.
And I still have the second album, which is Umgidi Ensemble, and which speaks now about a totally different topic. We are now visiting Venda. So we're speaking about Venda Monarch, and instead of Babu Mbuso Khoza as the lead vocalist on the album, we have Munei now. And we are speaking about issues of the Venda Monarch, right?
But also the music and the culture that comes out from there.
Crazy.
Before we started, I was in the canteen. I was talking to somebody.
Yes.
They were telling me how on another show here on the station, they were talking to Monet, and they were just shocked and surprised at the beauty of the music. I'm like, not just Monet. Explore the others that are there. Yeah.
Crazy. This is
Absolutely.
Nothemba. So poetic. It's a language that's so poetic, so beautiful. Like, I'm so grateful that I was able to have Monet on the album and for him to explore his language and his stories in that music as a bed.
Yeah.
And for him to just walk on top and be able to use it as a platform, it sounds breathtaking.
Will some of that music be performed on
Yes,
at the Standard Bank Joy Jazz?
So Monet is going to be there and we'll be performing the new music, and hopefully a surprise act who's also on the album. she's a global.
Let's mention her, because you never know how your people
Yes. So
will bring her into.
So I was fortunate to have Mam Angelique Kidjo on as a feature on the album. For me, it's a dream come true. I think after Mam Miriam Makeba, I don't think I would have wanted anyone else but Mam Angelique Kidjo to be on the record. And these are the type of features you spend years trying to like get together and
just getting the yes
crazy
out of someone like that.
Crazy, Sis Nothemba, crazy. Like when my team reached out to Mam Angelique Kidjo's team, she said, "I would like to listen to the whole album first." So I sent the link with the album, and the response was, "Which song?" And I said, "Whichever." And she picked a song. It didn't even take. It was so. And this person, mind you, was mid-tour. So out of her tour schedule, said she had to go into the studio, record, send it back, and continue with the tour. It didn't take even weeks. Maybe it took a couple of days, and I had like files sent back to me, and it sounded insane.
When are these two projects coming out?
Radio Bantu is actually done. We are releasing a triple vinyl first before it comes out on DSPs. So we're releasing.
And what's the strategy behind that?
Okay, the strategy behind releasing the vinyls is that I strongly believe in giving people the music, and the team has a marketing strategy. So we had to come to like a compromise where it's like, okay, I understand that you are saying I must release this album towards the end of the year or beginning of next year, but I think the music needs to go out. People need to get the music. So the compromise was physical copies first, then we can do the team's date. But at least people have access to the music. So we're releasing, which was widely requested. We releasing the first album, Queen and the African Symphony, in vinyl form. Then we're releasing Radio Bantu, which is the second album in vinyl form, and the new Umkiti album in vinyl form. So we'll have a box set, and we'll have, I think, individual albums. But the first one that's going to come out is a box set.
Well, thank you for giving me access to this music, which I will share with Jazz and Beyond listeners. We'll get to sample the music before the marketers decide when they're taking it out. But you were talking about, Angelique Kidjo being on tour, and you have also toured, the world. And what has touring taught you about what we need to know about ourselves as South Africans that we don't, or maybe take for granted?
For me, really, what touring taught me is that we have something to offer. We definitely have something to offer. I don't want to put myself in a position where I say you have to sound South African or you have to sound, because authenticity is whatever, really, to be honest with you. Because if I was to ask you, Sis Nothemba, what is an authentic Nothemba? We are still looking.
She's different tomorrow.
Exactly, right? I think
from today.
I think it takes a whole lifetime.
Yeah.
And even in that lifetime, I don't think we get to a point where we find our authentic self, because we are forever evolving. But I think we as South Africans have a space in the global platform. We really have a space, and people are willing to listen to us, and people show up when they see us on the lineups, and
there is a hunger.
There is
to see us.
There is
to know us.
There is
to hear us.
Precisely.
And experience us.
Precisely.
And therefore, we should be happy to share who we are to the rest of the world.
Precisely. And I unfortunately have to say that even though the odds are very much against us because of many reasons, and one of them being the government. We can't, because we will spend the rest of the day, right? But all the other countries have the government behind them, supporting the arts for people to explore, for new things to come out, for new discoveries to come out.
And do you think this is the reason we get to know about what is happening in other countries more than because those countries recognizing the significance and the importance of arts
Precisely.
as a form of the identity of a country?
Of course, it's Nothemba. Of course, and I think there are some, and it's so sad that in South Africa, it has to be something that's like history, or you have to have been in the country for so long for you to be recognized, especially in the music that we're doing. You know, you have to make a name of yourself. They don't want to nourish and harness the process of getting to point X, right? Like
they want ready-made.
Exactly. Like they would celebrate Dr. Makatini, but I highly doubt that he has a story where he says that the arts and culture department was behind me throughout this whole process of me finding this particular voice. Whereas in other countries, like in Norway, in Stavanger, where I stayed, the commune, which is the municipality, had a couple of residents or apartments in all parts of Europe where you could book it as a person who lives in that commune or region. You could book it purely for research as an artist. You don't have to be in a university, or you just have to be an artist, and if it's vacant you can take it and you will spend your time there exploring what you want to explore until you come to a conclusion, or not a conclusion, but you can continuously book it. So there is some sort of initiative to harness all of these curiosities, all of these explorations that people want to explore, and then people come with new discoveries because there is some sort of support behind you wanting to discover.
What part of South African musical heritage do you fear we are losing?
Oh man, we will spend the whole day. I just if you say we, who is we?
You. Okay. Do you fear we, as South Africans, we are losing because of? I mean, I guess you made reference to it earlier when you were talking about what was happening in institutions.
Yes.
Where people would be drawn to the more Western and classical.
Exactly. Yes.
Because of the status of knowing that music would give you and allow you access to things, But clearly there's a musical heritage of ours which, without the likes of you, maybe, we're going to lose if no one keeps saying, hey, going digging and saying, hey, we've got this, we've got that. I mean, you're going to vendor now, you know. So are there other elements of our musical heritage that are sitting there dormant and wanting eyes and ears to
I would say the indigenous music community, that really is my biggest fear. In academia, there's quite a lot of people who are writing about it, by the way.
Okay.
And this is my problem, right? If in academia we had people who are also practitioners who will have those instruments still playing, as opposed to having everything in paper.
And those instruments.
So if you see yourself as an indigenous music scholar, you would write about it and also perform it. But because of the lack of practitioners that we have in the country who are in academia, then we have scholars who go and conduct field research, come back and write their findings and submit it to university, and it's archived, and it's just paper being archived. Doesn't change anything that happens. How many people ever go actually to any repository, library of any institution and just dig down and look at what people are researching. Almost none. It's just scholars that really indulge in reading all of those submissions or those findings. So if we really had a good blend of people who are hybrid, who are both in the scholarly world and are also practitioners, we wouldn't have this danger, because the awareness would be like prominent even for a person who just came out to check out a concert.
Yeah.
That person who wrote about that could speak about it, and people could be aware that we are actually facing this.
Fantastic. As a last question, because you write music in movements and so forth and so forth. If your life story was in a suit with 4 movements, what would the titles be?
Oh. Oh man, that's a tough one. In 4 movements. Oh, that's a really tough one. It's Nothemba, I'd have to come back to you about that. That's a really tough one. I've never thought of it like that. I really have never thought of it like that. But
my curiosity with that question also comes with even just how in your compositions you then decide, of a story, and it's in the different suits and different movements.
Yes.
And because you asked earlier on, our authenticity, which is, and I said I don't know who I am tomorrow.
And Sis Nothemba, I just feel like I mentioned I had another podcast interview where this person was asking about my philosophy behind writing music. I'm a composer, and I think I'm very creative. I'd like to think I can come up with a story or a narrative that's going to touch a lot of people on how I come up with my music. But that's really not the case. I live, breathe, eat, sleep, do what I am. Music. I do it every day. After I leave the studio, the studio here, I'm going to my studio and I'm going to continue composing. So, and the music doesn't, I don't wake up and have this dream, or I don't sleep and have this dream and wake up in the middle of the night and say there's a song haunting me. It doesn't haunt me. Every time I'm awake, there's a song that I could write.
Very quickly, your mathematics brilliance.
Yes.
How does it impact your trumpet playing or even your compositions?
Okay, that really does play a big part in my musicianship.
Okay.
Come to think of it, actually, I've never spoken it from that angle. That plays a huge role in how I compose and in how I play and how I see music in general and how I explain music. And that's the reason why when you listen to my compositions, sometimes the time signatures are so complex, but it's so easy to listen until you play the music and you realize, actually, this is, and it's because of this. I've never thought of it like that. Yes, it plays a huge role.
So would there be numbers floating all over and equations and things?
Definitely.
Wow.
And just simplifying it. Like, for me, I think music can be so complex, but can be also simplified in its complexity. So I can write the most complex music for musicians to play, but very consumable for the listeners.
Thank goodness for that.
And that's mathematics.
Thank goodness for that. Ndabo Zulu, thank you so much for joining us on Jazz and Beyond. Very interesting. Trying to get into your mind. I still have to get in more for a better understanding of how your brain works, but it's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Sis Nothemba.
My pleasure.
Come for the jazz and stay for the good times.
On Jazz and Beyond with Nothemba Madumo.
On 702 and CapeTalk.